You don't have a weak mindset. You just have untrained patterns. And patterns don't fix themselves. They repeat quietly, consistently, until they become your life. Most people think their mind is something they have, like a tool sitting somewhere in the background. But it's not. It's something that is always running, always deciding. Even when you're not paying attention, every delay, every scroll, every time you say, just 5 more minutes, it's not random. It's a pattern executing exactly as it was trained. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Your life right now is not built on your goals. It's built on what you repeat when you're tired, distracted, or alone. Not your best intentions, not your plans, but your defaults. What you do without thinking is shaping more than what you do with effort. So the real question is not whether you want to change. It's what are you rehearsing every single day without noticing? Because whatever you rehearse, you become slowly, silently, without any dramatic moment to warn you. And if nothing interrupts that loop, if nothing changes the structure, then the next version of your life will look a lot like this one. Just slightly more frustrating. Same habits, same distractions, same quiet feeling that you could be doing more. Your mind is not waiting for you to figure things out. It is already building something right now. The only question is it building you forward or keeping you exactly where you are? You sit down to do something important. You open your laptop. Maybe you even feel a bit motivated at first. Then something small pulls your attention. Just a quick check, just one tab, just one message. It doesn't feel like a decision. It feels automatic, almost harmless. But 10 minutes turn into 30. 30 turns into an hour. And the original task slowly fades into the background. Not because you don't care, but because your system is designed to drift. This is where most people misunderstand the problem. They think it's about discipline, about trying harder. But if effort alone worked, you would have solved this already. The real issue is structural. Your environment is built for convenience, speed, and constant stimulation. Everything is optimized to grab your attention, not protect it. So your brain adapts. It learns that switching is easy, that discomfort can be avoided, that focus is optional, and over time, this creates a hidden pattern. You begin to associate effort with resistance. Starting feels heavy, continuing feels harder, and stopping feels natural. So you rely on motivation to push through, but motivation is inconsistent. Some days it's there, most days it's not. Then comes the second layer, the one that does real damage. You start making small promises to yourself. I'll start in 5 minutes, I'll do it later. I'll make up for it tomorrow, and when those promises don't hold, something shifts internally. You begin to trust yourself less. Not consciously, but gradually. That's the part people don't talk about. Procrastination is not just a time problem. It's a self-trust problem. Every delay is a signal, quietly shaping how you see yourself. So the issue is not that you lack willpower. It's that you're operating inside a system where distraction is easy, starting is hard, and consistency has no support. The shift didn't happen when I found more motivation. It happened when I stopped relying on it, because motivation feels. Behavior is not controlled by how you feel. It's controlled by what your environment makes easy. Once that clicked, the problem looked completely different. I wasn't inconsistent because I was weak. I was inconsistent because my system made inconsistency the default. If the easiest thing to do is check your phone, you will check your phone. If the easiest thing to do is delay, you will delay, not because you choose to fail, but because your system quietly guides you there. That's when it became clear. Discipline is not about pushing harder. It's about needing to push less. It's about removing friction from the actions that matter and adding friction to the ones that don't. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. And if your system is built around convenience, distraction, and waiting for the right mood, then even the best intentions won't survive. This is where most people stay stuck. They keep trying to fix themselves. They think they need more willpower, more focus, more drive. But the real leverage is not in forcing effort. It's in redesigning. The structure behind the effort, once you see that, something shifts internally. You stop blaming yourself for every failure, and you start asking a different question. Not why am I like this, but what is my system training me to do? And that question is where real change begins. So instead of trying to fix your motivation, build a simple system you can follow even when you don't feel like it. Not something complex, not something perfect, just something repeatable. Start with this: reduce, anchor, repeat, first, reduce, most, and create immediate resistance. So strip it down. Choose one action that actually matters, something small enough that you can't justify avoiding it. Not an hour of deep work, just 5 minutes. Not a full workout, just the first set. You are not building results yet. You are building the habit of starting. Second, anchor. Don't rely on a time you hope to follow. Attach the action to something that already exists in your day. After you open your laptop, you start the task. After you sit at your desk, you begin the first step. No decision, no debate. The trigger happens. The action follows. This removes the moment where most people quit, the moment of thinking. Third, repeat, not intensely, not perfectly, just consistently. Same small action, same trigger every day. You're not trying to feel productive. You're training your system to act automatically. Imagine a simple stick figure sitting at a desk. No pressure, no overthinking. It opens the laptop and immediately starts one small task. No hesitation, no negotiation, just action. Then it stops, not because it has to, but because it already did what it promised. That's important. You keep the promise small so you can keep it daily. And over time, that repetition builds something stronger than motivation. It builds reliability. This is how you remove friction from starting. This is how you stop depending on mood. And this is how a system begins to carry you, instead of you forcing everything on your own. At first, it feels almost too simple. One small action, one short session, nothing impressive. You might even question if it's enough, but something subtle begins to change. You stop negotiating with yourself as much. That internal friction, the back and forth before starting, it gets quieter because the task is no longer overwhelming. It's familiar. It has a clear entry point, a known shape, and your brain starts to recognize it as something safe to begin. Then another shift happens. You begin to trust your own word again. Not because you made big promises, but because you kept small ones. See yourself as someone who tries. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through. And over time, the results begin to compound. Quietly, the 5 minutes become 10. The small task becomes a completed project. Not because you forced it, but because the system made continuation easier than stopping. You feel less overwhelmed because you're no longer carrying unrealistic expectations. You feel more focused because fewer things are competing for your attention. And most importantly, you feel calmer because you're no longer relying on unstable bursts of energy to move your life forward. Nothing about this looks dramatic from the outside. There's no sudden transformation, no visible breakthrough moment, but internally, everything is different. You have less resistance, more clarity, and a growing sense that progress is happening, even on ordinary days. And that's the real shift. You stop chasing intensity and start building consistency, because in the long run, consistency doesn't just win. It carries you further with less effort and far less noise. You don't need to become a different person to move forward. You don't need more motivation, more pressure, or a perfect plan. What you need is a system that still works when you're tired, distracted, or not in the mood, because those are the days that actually define your direction. Most of your life will not be lived in peak energy or perfect focus. It will be lived in ordinary moments, quiet mornings, low energy afternoons, evenings when you'd rather do anything else. And in those moments, you won't rise to your intentions. You will fall back to your system. So instead of asking how to push yourself harder, ask what can you make easier to repeat? What can you start without thinking? What can you do even on your worst days? Because change doesn't come from intensity. It comes from what you can sustain without friction. You're not stuck. You are just running a system that leads you back to the same place. Change the system, and the path begins to shift quietly but reliably. You don't need a perfect day. You need a repeatable one. If you've been caught in that loop, type system. And if you want to keep refining how you work, one small piece at a time, stay. Here we build this slowly, consistently, and for the long run.